Hello and welcome to this edition of Arlington Public News. I'm Brenda Mahoney in for Carla Dorado.
And I'm Paul Werlin. At Arlington Public News, we bring you stories of interest to Arlington and surrounding communities. In tonight's newscast, we introduce you to Arlington's new Deputy Town Manager, Sandy Pooler. We tell you about proposed regulations for medical marijuana dispensaries in town, and we visit a recent MBTA public meeting on proposed fare hikes.
Plus, we tell you how APN is saluting the accomplishments of Black Americans this February. That and more coming up next.
Sandy Pooler became Arlington's new Deputy Town Manager on January 25th. APN spoke with Sandy to learn about his background and why he chose Arlington.
Welcome, I'm Paola Trisnaruda, and today we're here introducing Sandy Pooler, the new Deputy Town Manager, to our community. So thank you so much for joining us here today.
Glad to be here, Paola.
All right, so can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself? What previous cities have you come from?
Most recently, I was working in the town of Amherst, and then before that, I worked in the city of Newton, and before that, I worked in the state legislature.
So what is some of your previous work before coming to Arlington?
I was the finance director in Amherst. I was the chief administrative officer, and before that, chief budget officer in Newton. And in the legislature, I was counsel to various committees. So in addition to my finance background, I also have a law degree, so I did legal work in the legislature.
And what has made you want to get started in that kind of work?
Well, I've always been interested in public policy, social change. I started out right after college working for MassPIRG, trying to do social change, improve the environment and protect consumers, those kind of things.
So why Arlington?
Because I know Arlington is a well-run community. And so coming to a community that has high expectations and high standards means it's the kind of place I want to work.
What were your first impressions coming into Arlington?
I think it confirmed my feeling that the town is well-run. I've been very impressed with the people I've met. They've been very nice. All very professional. My first night here, I went to the town meeting and got to see how Arlington does its town meeting. And I thought the public asked good questions, and I was very impressed with the people from the Finance Committee who spoke and answered people's questions. I thought they did a great job.
Do you have any long-term and short-term goals for your work here in Arlington?
I think in the short run, getting to know how things are done here, I see that there are a lot of short-term challenges. The town needs to upgrade its financial system, the software that we use for our keeping track of the money we collect and spend. And I think that plays into what I think is one of the most important things that I can do is act as a focus for communication between different departments and make sure people are talking together. In the long run, I think there are some big capital challenges here. Town meeting just dealt with the last of the elementary schools that needs upgrades, but the high school is going to be a huge challenge, and I look forward to getting involved in that.
Is there anything else that the public should know about you that you're looking forward to accomplishing at all?
Well, I hope that they appreciate my sense of humor, which I think that should come out in some of these meetings. But I'd like to try to engage with people, be as open as possible. I strongly believe in transparency in government, and so I'm looking forward to working with the selectmen, with the town meeting members and the members of the various committees, and trying to make what can sometimes be complex financial issues into things that everybody can understand and feel good about what their local government is doing.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. We look forward to talking to you next time about more work that's coming up in the future. For Arlington Public News, I'm Paola Trisnaruda.
A medical marijuana dispensary is looking to move into Arlington. A representative for the Massachusetts Patient Foundation tells APN that Arlington would be a great location to serve prospective patients. The group is in the permitting process with the state's Department of Public Health, but Arlington is looking to develop its own regulations as well. The Board of Health recently held a hearing on what those local laws could entail. There are no firm plans for a medical marijuana dispensary in Arlington yet, but the Board of Health is proposing additional oversight beyond the state's Department of Public Health regulations if one were to be approved by the state and town.
We would like to have the ability to inspect the facility, make sure it's safe and sanitary, and provide other restrictions that would help protect public health and safety.
The health department looked to the Massachusetts Municipal Association for guidance on dispensaries, seeing what other cities and towns are proposing, recommending some changes, such as limiting medical marijuana to a 30-day supply as opposed to the state's 60 days. Those at the hearing say they don't want burdensome restrictions for patients in need.
If these regulations are really going to deter or prevent is the acronym now, the RMDs or an individual, I feel that could be discriminatory, and I don't think that that's something that we want to do. I am in support that we make this as easy as possible for patients and minimize fees, make that as negligible as possible, simplify it as much as possible.
One resident cautioned the board to make sure a registered marijuana dispensary couldn't turn into a retail marijuana store in the future, in case the state ever legalized recreational use of the drug.
And I would hope that this board would take its opportunity to underline that difference and to prevent the false impression that a successfully operated dispensary establishes a precedent for time of operation, place of operation especially, manner of operation for a retail recreational establishment in this town.
The Board of Health will review the input and decide upon the regulations at its next scheduled meeting in April. A dispensary would still need to register with the state and seek approval from the Board of Selectmen before locating in Arlington. Brenda Mahoney, Arlington Public News.
You know, Brenda, the local Board of Health has the right to regulate the dispensing of medical marijuana just as they do tobacco and alcohol.
That's right, they do. It's under their mission. It falls under their mission. And however, they can't outright stop a registered dispensary coming to town because it was approved on the state level. And so that's something that we could be dealing with in the future, having one here in town.
Sure. The MBTA's control board will vote later this year on possible fare increases effective July 2016. Public hearings are being held to discuss two leading options for single fare riders and pass users. News intern Paolo Tristan Arruda attended one of these meetings and brings you this report.
The MBTA governing board says they need to raise revenue and plan to do that by increasing fares. The cost for a single ride on the T could go up as much as 10% by July 2016. The MBTA is considering two leading proposals and are looking for public feedback. A series of public hearings are being held in and around Boston to discuss different options. During the hearing held on February 4th at the Massachusetts Transportation Building, the majority of the public opposed the fare increases. Community organizer Mela Bush-Miles is not only against the increase, but is working to actually lower the cost riders pay.
It's very important to me because I actually represent a huge constituency of about 75,000 people that live along the Fairmount corridor, which runs from through Dorchester, Roxbury, and Mattapan. These are the most transit-dependent folk in the system. This is where the environmental justice communities, lower income and communities of color are concentrated in the city of Boston. And we've been working for years to try and get better transportation for these communities and across the region as well.
Opponents are concerned with how the fare increases would affect students and low-income families who rely on the T for transportation.
Rents are climbing and people's incomes are not being increased to match those things. So that's what's really concerning me, because it affects me, it affects my family, it affects the 75,000 people along the Fairmount line that we have been working so hard to preserve affordable transportation for over the past 20 years.
Policy Director for Transportation for Massachusetts, Charlie Tukotsky, discussed a more modest approach.
What Transportation for Massachusetts believes is fair is a modest increase of 5% to keep up with inflation and make sure the riders are paying their fair share. We believe anything above 5% every 2 years is too much and becomes unpredictable for riders and could lead to lower ridership and other harmful effects.
The deficits in the MBTA budget are due to the large amounts of debt the T has from projects like the Big Dig to transit expansions and improvements. The MBTA is proposing two options. Option 1 would increase single ride fares by about 5%, but pass prices would increase beyond that number. The total impact of option 1 is estimated at a 6.7% increase. Option 2 would increase single-ride fares to almost 10%, but it doesn't stop there.
But actually the passes would go up by much more. Bus passes, these are the T's most loyal customers who buy monthly passes. People could be paying 20% more for a bus. They could be paying 13% more for subway. Student passes could go up 23%. So there really are large fare hikes, and that's why we're very concerned.
I'm Paola Trisneruda for Arlington Public News.
Arlington High School recently opened up its doors to talk about mental health and suicide. A community forum with social and mental health experts focused on how to get teens to talk about their problems and if they are suicidal. This after the showing of a powerful video on those affected by suicide. The message is in the title: Mental Health and Suicide Awareness. Experts at the community forum at Arlington High School letting people know that not only can we say the word suicide, but should talk about it too.
That's the hardest part, getting people to start the discussion of something you're not supposed to talk about, and you'll see this in the film.
The film, You Are Not Alone, by Randy Barth and the suicide prevention group Samaritans, did just that between parents, teachers, and a panel of mental health professionals. The film points out that kids are ready to talk too. They just need an outlet.
Their hands are always raised because they want to get it out so much. They just need the platform. And more importantly, knowing that it's okay to ask if someone is suicidal.
Children in Arlington Public Schools are screened for mental health issues starting in the 7th grade, and there are suicide awareness programs at the high school. But teachers and parents are being encouraged to broach the subject informally as well.
And that is when someone is feeling hopeless and won't get help or accept help, how do you help that person? A tough question.
I think that oftentimes it's the frontline people who identify and have ongoing contact with the students that really start seeing what's going on. So it could be teachers, school nurses, guidance counselors, and even if kids won't go out of the school to get help, they're having that first line contact with those people, and through that, hopefully there'll be some bridges into other resources.
Arlington High School social worker and intervention specialist Andrea Razzi says the stigma surrounding depression still persists.
Suicide is on the minds of many, many teenagers in Arlington, and we want to help people be able to talk about it, be able to say the word, be able to acknowledge how paramount depression and anxiety are for teenagers, because I work at Arlington High School, but really for all of us, for all ages. I hear it all day, every day, that students are embarrassed to say that they're depressed. They think everyone else is happy and they're the only one who's not. They're embarrassed to ask for help.
Some point to the pressures that kids face in these halls and with keeping up with daily life schedules that cause them to have emotional struggles. But the point of the Mental Health Awareness Night is that they are not alone.
We're almost held to an unrealistic standard for excellence in our lives. Generally, especially here in such a high-achieving community, it's really difficult for kids to maintain a balance between school, sports, friends, and I think that all of it just really takes a toll on us. The most important step is acknowledging the fact that there are people that can help you.
Anyone looking for help can check out the resources listed at the Arlington High School Guidance website or contact the office at 781-316-3607. For immediate help, the Samaritan statewide 24/7 talk line is available at 877-870-4673. Brenda Mahoney, Arlington Public News. You know, I attended the forum, and it really was a great way just to open up the discussion and say it's okay to actually talk about mental health and suicide. Not only is it okay, but it might help someone. And the more we talk about it, then the more we're at ease with opening up and hopefully preventing.
It's true, and it's if we save even one life, it's worth all the effort. And to watch the full mental health and suicide prevention discussion, go to the ACMi website at vod.acmi.tv. February school vacation is upon us, and if you have kids to entertain, we have suggestions for fun activities. In our next segment, Arlington Recreation Director Joe Connolly tells us about some of the programs children can take part in this February vacation.
Hi, this is Maren Levesque with Arlington Community Media, and I'm here at the Arlington Recreation Department to report on the activities available this February vacation for kids in the Arlington community.
We have 3 programs. All are primarily for ages kindergarten through grade 5. One is our Kid Care program, which is 8 in the morning until 6 in the evening. It's a trip-based program. They'll start at the Gibbs School. They'll do some activities there. Then they might come skating. Then they're going to go to the movies one day. They got a couple other fun adventure, trampoline park. We have the Viking Sports Camp. It was a multi-sports camp, 9 to 3. Kids would come in and the instructors will give them 2 or 3 different sport options to choose from. That's being held at Arlington High School. And their other option is our soccer program. I mean, soccer is very big in the Arlington community. So during vacation week, again at the high school in the opposite gym, the Challenger program it was running a camp of all skill levels for boys and girls. Just try to keep the kids busy this summer and give mom and dad a break.
Sounds good. What are the prices for the programs and availability? I know you mentioned some of them are filling up.
Sure. The Kid Care program is roughly $60 a day at this point because all 5 days, which is 200, isn't open. That's 8 to 6. The Viking sports camp and the Challenger are right around 200, right in that ballpark.
And are there like safety members on staff?
Oh, sure. No, it's a good question. The counselor to child ratio. I mean, all these programs are 1 to 10. To be honest with you, the Viking and the Challenger might even go a little bit below 1 to 10 just because we don't tend to get that many kids signing up. We're probably going to have around the 40 mark. As far as there's no nurse on duty or there's no trainer on duty, although at a Kid Care program they have first aid and CPR certified, and there's certainly have our share of first aid kits and things to help any bumps and scrapes that we might get along the way. For all these programs, you can go to arlingtonrec.com and you can see more descriptions about the programs. You can register for the programs right online. Register with a credit card, or take MasterCard, Visa, into Discover. Any other questions that isn't certainly in the brochure, you can just call down the rec department at 781-316-3880.
So as you can see, there's a lot of activities available for February vacation for kids in the Arlington community. This has been an Arlington Community Media report by Marin Levesque.
Arlington Public News is airing a series of segments in honor of Black History Month this February. As part of this series, we have been asking individuals in and around the community, what does Black History Month mean to you? Here is a sampling of the responses we've received.
Black History Month always makes me think of how far we've come as a country in the past 200 years. And it also reminds me of how far we still have to go in this country in terms of issues of equality and diversity. It also gives me an opportunity to reflect on some of the amazing accomplishments of African Americans in this nation. So it's a great month, again, to think about the accomplishments and the achievements and the changes that have occurred in this country, and also to think about what it's going to take to continue to bridge the divide to make sure that this is a country where truly there is equal opportunity for all to be successful. So it's a great month, and I'm very glad that ACMi is giving us this opportunity. Thank you.
What Black History Month means to me, I haven't thought a great deal about it, but I'm very glad we have a Black History Month, and I think it's very important that people pay attention to the role that African Americans and the whole black community has played in our country's history and our country today.
We should all recognize, respect, and learn about other people's cultures and keep it a part of our history for the future of our children and their children. So that way we can all learn from each other and grow from each other, because as we all know, we are all equal and we are all one. And that's what's important in this world. Color means nothing. It's all about making a difference.
Black History Month means to us that we have learned a very big lesson from history. We should always look back on it, reflect on our mistakes, learn from them, and apply our knowledge on how to make this place a better world for all lives, regardless of color, age, gender, and or religion.
I think Black history, to me, is something that's very important. It's a celebration to all black people amongst the United States of America. It shows that there's a month that we could show all the history that we put in as a people. And I think overall it's something that not only black people, also white people, Asian, and everybody that lives that considers themselves an American citizen should take notes and realize all the works that black people contribute to this country.
The original library of Alexandria, Egypt was founded in 288 BC and housed hundreds of thousands of scrolls. Before it was destroyed, scientists, mathematicians, and writers came to Alexandria from all over the world. A new library of Alexandria was launched in 2002, and Arlington resident Michael Armanius recently visited Egypt to get a first-hand view of this tremendous undertaking. Michael and news producer Gayatri Sundarajan present this special report.
Alexandria has always been and strives to be a melting pot of cultures and knowledge. Scientists, mathematicians, and writers came to Alexandria to learn, collaborate, and create new knowledge. The original ancient library of Alexandria was founded in 288 BC and housed thousands of scrolls written by the finest intellectuals of the ancient world. Over 1,700 years ago, the Library of Alexandria was the biggest repository of knowledge in the world. The Library of Alexandria can be thought of as the ancient world's Library of Congress. Unfortunately, the ancient library was destroyed in 400 AD. The library's physical destruction was a terrible occurrence in history, but the destruction of its environment was an even greater loss. The great intellectuals of Alexandria created an environment of learning that would encourage the proliferation of ideas. When the Library of Alexandria was desecrated, this unique environment was uprooted as well. It wasn't until 2002 that the Library of Alexandria was rebuilt. The new library has a shelf capacity for 8 million books, with the main reading room covering nearly 750,000 square feet. The main reading room stands beneath a 32-meter-high, glass-paneled roof tilted out toward the sea like a sundial, and measuring some 160 meters in diameter. The external walls of the library are of gray Aswan granite, carved with characters from 120 different human scripts. As it turned out, the difficulty was not in creating a building for knowledge, but instead in recreating the environment that sustained such deep thought. It would be the task of Dr. Ismail Saragildeen, the founding director of the Library of Alexandria, to revive this flourishing environment. Dr. Saragildeen began by hiring highly qualified people to work in the Library of Alexandria.
I found at the Library of Alexandria an atmosphere which encouraged me to flourish through the principles and the institution culture. Everyone had the opportunity to grow. It's a merit-based institution, so no, like we say in French, préjudice, no difference between woman or man. So I had the opportunity to learn, to grow.
The mission of the library to be center of excellence in production and dissemination of knowledge and center of dialogue and understanding, to be window of Egypt to the world, and the world's window to Egypt, center for dialogue and understanding. All these values made me think, yes, I want to be part of this.
In an attempt to make knowledge accessible to remote parts of Egypt, Dr. Saragildeen hired teachers to act as ambassadors of knowledge. Together, they created outreach programs to transfer knowledge to women and girls in underprivileged areas of Egypt. The Library of Alexandria then acquired Beit al-Senari, the home of Napoleon's Institute for the Committee of Arts and Sciences. Dr. Saragildeen turned this house into a center for science, culture, and arts, in an effort to promote Egypt's cultural heritage through a series of workshops tailored to women.
These mashrabiyas were used by women to look at the outside world without being looked at. And yet when I opened this window, I stared straight at the Sanaya school, the first girls' school in Cairo. And for us, this is very inspiring at Beit Sinari. And this is the reason we've tried as much as possible to connect the house with this tradition by creating programs for women's empowerment, for women's education.
To further advance the goals of the Library of Alexandria, Dr. Saragildeen joined the edX platform. He hopes to expose learners worldwide to the achievement and contributions of Egypt, while allowing Egyptians to access the greater world around them.
Our aim in joining the edX program is to be able to introduce Egypt and our culture to the world, but also to bring more knowledge to our students here in this part of the world.
There are certain courses and certain educational material that are not very accessible for people in certain areas, or they are quite expensive. It was also interesting to help or become part of this project, because then you provide opportunities for people who might be quite underprivileged.
The new Library of Alexandria has revived the environment that was set into place many hundreds of years ago. Under the direction of Dr. Ismail Saragildeen, the Library of Alexandria is becoming one of the world's greatest educational institutions once more. This is Gayatri Sundarajan and Michael Armanius reporting for Arlington Public News.
You know, Brenda, as you may know, I'm a big history and architecture buff, so I really liked this segment. It's very interesting.
And it's great now that the Library of Alexandria is a part of the edX program, which is a program for education online and sharing their wealth of information with the rest of the world, as well as getting some information as well from other edX users.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for joining us this week to explore local events and issues around Arlington. Check out extended interviews in our latest segments on the web at news.acmi.tv.
And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Arlington Public.
Please join us next time for another edition of Arlington Public News. I'm Brenda Mahoney.
And I'm Paul Werlin. See you next time.